There you have it. Me, you, and Scott. Mics are hot.
Morning, everybody.
Something's wrong.
No, we're good.
Nah.
Yeah.
Something's wrong.
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
Something wrong with
bother.
you.
Oh, bother. Something's wrong.
There we go.
I can feel it.
Scott Tomko, Ricky King, Bobby Leister, all in this morning. Good morning, everybody. Merry Christmas. Torrin Bales, Rena Scherer, David Glass, Justin Glass. Good morning, everybody. Heather Stewart.
Do not adjust your radios.
Nope, do not.
That sound you hear is my voice after a weekend with my all my children in at the same time. A wonderful grandbaby.
Marvin Mickish, Linda Chris, Tammy Keeling, Ricky King says we sound good.
For all of you that are grandparents that I look at like Torrin Bales checking in there and a guy that's just always there. You and I talked about this, he's just always there for his grandkids. I get it. And it's not that I was never critical of it. I just didn't necessarily get it. Ash is passionate about, I can't do this on that day. I go, it's pretty important, Ash. Yeah, but Marley's got breakfast with granddad at school. And not, I've got to be there. And I get to be there. And it's just starting to click that, is it fair to say it's innate? I think that men maybe start to have more of a maternal instinct when we have grandkids.
I think what it is.
I wasn't nearly as like, I've got to be there for my kids. But of course, by the time I had a third kid, he was feral. Yeah. I was like, Kyle, see ya.
I think what it is
first day of school, Kyle catch the bus.
I had a stage in life where I don't have to run the rat race to provide for my kids, and I can enjoy the grandkids.
Well,
it's unfortunate, but that's kind of where it is.
That is true. When you're having your own children, you're so busy in it that you can't look at it.
Yeah. Although there's still way too many people that do that. And I get it, maybe now technology, because you're trying to get it to people who can't get there. But Marley had a dance recital with the Strutters on Saturday, and everybody's phone's up. I mean, I had mine up for a bit because I sent it, but I was watching. I mean, my camera work was shoddy because I was actually watching her.
Right, instead of watching it on your phone.
Yeah.
I've been to Cowboys games where people sitting next to me are just looking up at the big screen. They don't even look. The game's right there, people.
Can't see the game.
Yeah, they're watching on the screen. Good morning, Mom.
Speaking of which,
I know my mom feels the same way. She was with us all weekend, and it's like you just can't get enough. You watch every eye blink.
Yeah. You do.
And I'm even the guy that is ADHD that, like I want to hold her a lot as long as she's happy. When she starts crying after just a minute of that, Dawn takes it as like a challenge I'll take her because then Dawn pats her bottom and rocks her and the baby chills out. I'm like, okay, she's frustrated. Somebody take the baby.
Yeah. And there is a little bit of a competition between who can settle the baby.
Oh, yeah.
Down. It's like a
Dawn's
badge of
good
honor.
at it.
It's a badge of honor.
Dawn's good at it. I just, this afternoon, I'm going to take them up to Schulenburg for the rest of their holidays, and they've got to start looking. We talked about that they may be coming and moving to Fort Cavazos, former Fort Hood. So they're going to take one day and drive over to Killeen and Temple Belton and look around there.
Nice.
And I guess I knew there was a Lake Belton over there, but there's a whole area over there that if it wasn't for that military base, that might be a pretty nice place to live. But they're going to go over there. If it wasn't
for their military base, nobody would be living there.
There wouldn't be anybody there. Yeah. Good point. There wouldn't be a lake because they wouldn't need the water. But just a great, great weekend. We took some family pictures yesterday, and
nice.
You start realizing we had 4 generations. Mom, me, Katie, Kennedy. So that's very awesome. Good. Very fun. Thank you for indulging me in my reminiscence.
Lisa Poole, Micah Patton, Sherry Jacobs, Ricky King, BJ Nelson. Good morning, everybody. Wade and Carter weather brought to you by the great folks at AT Deerland Hayfeed and Ranch Services. Stop on by today.
Kind of a cloudy day looking tomorrow. In fact, looking at the rest of the week, folks, is it up to a 60% chance of rain. 40% tomorrow, 60, then 55 and 40 on Friday. But 61 to 77 today. It's not
Nice.
going to be a bad day, just going to be cloudy. So, anyway, to all you grandparents out there, thank you for what you do. That's awesome. Yeah, BJ says, new grandparent club, and I'm definitely in it. I'm that one. So we got a couple of really cool. We did our little gift exchange, and very, very thoughtful, folks. If you need to do this, be aware. Got one of those little. It's about the size of like an Alexa or a, Siri.
Yep.
And it's Bluetooth with. It's a picture frame that rotates, and they can update it. Katie and Steven can. You're sitting there and it goes boo boo. And you go in, there's new pictures.
That's cool.
So when they're back in Washington State, they can take a picture of her. Oh, I'll put her in a new outfit and send it to me and Mom. Great-grand got one as well.
That's cool.
Very cool. Very thoughtful gift. And Kendall gave us a pizza oven, so you'll be the recipient of some pizza.
Nice.
An uni. And it's pretty cool. I had to put it together.
I thought you were going to say I'm going to be the recipient of a pizza oven.
Yeah, I have no use for that. I'm going to give it to you. No, it's very, very fun.
Skylight photo frame.
I think that's what it is, Timmy. I am not technically the guru that you would expect me to be in this Dallas
I'm
Cowboys
surprised with
Fetterman.
all with all the social media apps that those frames are as popular as they are, but they are pretty cool because there's still a lot of people that don't have it.
Well, I walked in this morning and I was just sitting there putting on my tennis shoes, and I became fascinated with. I was looking at it 'cause about every 5 seconds it'd scroll a new pic.
Yeah.
What's cool about it is you can go up and just scroll back, and you can tap on it and keep it.
Keep it. That's cool.
Yeah, very cool.
So
Almost
the
high-tech.
kid you're mad at, you can get out of that picture.
Yeah, like Kyle. No, he's out. There's Kennedy Claire. We keep her.
Buddy Stefano checking in. Judge Posey, good morning. Good
morning, Judge.
Everybody who's listening on Magic. Those of you on YouTube, Facebook.
Yeah, we think about the week, and Ash and I both kind of bemoaned this morning, like, oh, it's Monday morning. It's a dead week. But when you folks all check in, it makes us want to be here. So I think I'll call it now. I think we probably will do a show tomorrow. Weren't necessarily planning on it.
This spool wants to know the name of the brand.
I
of the
think
picture
that's what it
frame.
was. I
Skylight.
think she's right. Skylight picture frame.
Scott Tomkins says, Alexa, start the pizza oven.
Yeah, no kidding.
There's Will Vincent checking in. Good morning, Will. Representative Cloud's going to join us this morning. We got lots to talk about what happened in D.C. last week and some revelations that came out at the end of the week. Of course, huge story in the Wall Street Journal about Joe Biden really not running the country.
Like, duh. Like, we didn't tell you that back in about 2021.
Isn't it one thing to sort of joke about it, but another to actually have it confirmed that, yeah. And doesn't it make, to me, it's almost treasonous that they're now admitting that he was diminished beyond capacity. And again, just the Dems being the Dems and accusing Donald Trump of being diminished and they should invoke the 25th Amendment when actually their guy was the diminished one. It's just
I do think
so typical.
I do think it merits a little reflection. You should stop and consider the fact that all the shenanigans set aside, at the end of the day, Joe Biden was confirmed and was named president of the United States. The most powerful man in the free world, maybe arguably the most powerful man in the world. And people like Kamala Harris, who ran hoping we would put our trust in her, again, aside from all the shenanigans that she never received a vote. The whole thing just reeks of manipulation. And we were all manipulated. There's really no way to get around the fact that the people, the powers that be, and there's always been a club in D.C. of unelected bureaucrats who, no doubt, going back to Reagan, they made fun of the actor that he was just an actor. He was playing president. And there were always those behind the scenes jokes about presidents. With Clinton, the behind the scene jokes revolved around his philandering and sneaking around and how he was always out sneaking an Egg McMuffin and whatever else he could get.
Fries.
Yeah, those were the jokes, right? But
remember he went on his jog and went to McDonald's and got fries?
This is very, very, it is very serious. If you just stop for a minute, this is a guy who carries the nuclear codes. This is a guy that represents the credibility of the United States government.
This is a guy the Wall Street Journal says that the aides spent more time and more effort gatekeeping him and making sure he wasn't going to do something stupid.
Wander off across the lawn. I mean, they literally kind of like made a human rope chain to keep the guy where they. Yeah. Tammy Kinnick says the most powerful unelected person now is Elon Musk.
Let's just deflect and forget about the topic we're talking about because Tammy doesn't want to hear this.
No, but I can't agree that Elon's also. No. I think that's something the media has ascribed to him.
That's exactly what it is.
But do you disagree that? I mean, I guess I'm asking even my Democrat friends. Where is your outrage that there was a concerted, coordinated effort by people in Washington who were not elected by you or us to hide from you the fact that the cognitive ability of your president was compromised?
Now, listen to some of the revelations in the Wall Street Journal story that came out, I think, Friday afternoon. Joe Biden's aides and advisors, unelected, were telling visitors to keep meetings short and focused as his meetings grew rarer and rarer with members of Congress and top cabinet officials, legislative leaders. That to me would suggest
Congress
elected
people.
Folks, had a difficult time getting in touch with the president, including when we were pulling our troops out of Afghanistan.
I feel the same way about Mitch McConnell. I feel the same way about Nancy Pelosi.
Top staffers took on roles and administration officials, and some in President Biden's inner circle said those were roles that the president should have been doing himself.
And it's much like you look at things and go, I don't know how you define pornography, but I know it when I see it. I don't know how it's not fair to come in and start going, well, if Biden was senile, then Trump is senile. I'm not trying to play a game here. I'm just saying.
That's the game they were trying to play, though, remember? Oh,
yes.
Trump's losing it. He's mentally incompetent. He's looking like an old guy.
I think the bigger issue to me is not that Joe Biden lost his cognitive ability. It's that the government, now everybody should have a different view of what I just said. The government made a concerted effort to cover it up.
From the get-go.
It's not like he had an event. Oh, gee, he had a stroke and Fetterman had a stroke, my fashion advisor, and he got smarter. I think Fetterman started looking at what really mattered once he had his stroke.
Well, I think he realized that aligning himself with the AOCs and the leftists in the Democrat Party was political suicide, and now he's become very centrist.
But not only
But we digress.
There's an accountability factor.
The man that was elected to run the country didn't run the country, basically, is what it boils down to.
Kamala, Ash.
And yet, I'm not so sure that's not always the case anyway.
No, I'm not.
Except with maybe Donald Trump, and that's why so many people in his administration
don't like him.
Didn't like him. When they got kicked out or got sideways with him and quit, then they went, he's a big bully.
Well, the problem to me was
because they didn't listen to him, and that's the problem in Washington, D.C. We have too many unelected people that run the country.
The unelected people got frustrated when Donald Trump would say, that's stupid. We're not going to do that. Because there were a mass of them that said, well, we've always done it that way. That's how it's done. But Kamala Harris, when it suited her, boasted, I was always the last one in the room. Yeah. Me and Joe, we're in lockstep. That lady lied to all of us. She ascribed credibility to Joe's decisions that Joe wasn't making. Now, you may say to yourself, well, for gosh sakes, man, the whole world would know. The whole world knew, people. We told you 3 years ago the guy was a veg. We are the laughing stock of the world over allowing a guy that, can't complete a sentence to run our country. I'm not suggesting he be punished, and I realize at this point, the point is almost moot, but it should offend you no matter which party you pull for. That there was a overall group with enough stroke to make it happen in Washington, D.C. to make sure you didn't know what was going on. Interesting.
Yeah. No, it really is.
But now he's commuting sentences by the dozens. Do you think that all of a sudden he's having moments of clarity, or do you think that somebody's sliding things in front of him with their agenda? Sign this, Joe. Sign this, Joe. That's what's got to be happening.
That explains why the signature on his resignation letter didn't look anything like his signature.
Solid point. He didn't sign it.
The sentences of 37 of the 40 federal inmates on death row will be reclassified to life without the possibility of parole, according to the White House and NBC News this morning.
So
and I'm not
40
saying
federal inmates probably means, honestly, that they're probably from foreign countries who have been deemed terrorists and things like that. Is that fair?
Robert Bowers, who killed 11 people in the Tree of Life synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh, is one of those, or he remains on federal death row, along with Dylan Roof, who killed all those people at the Black Church in Charleston, and then one of the Boston Marathon bombers will also remain on death row. But
symbolic. He messed with the Jews. We'll leave him there. He messed with the black folks. We'll leave him there. He messed with Baston. We'll leave him there. Everybody else gets a pass. $50,000 a year for the rest of their lives. More than that. Let's just keep them locked up forever.
Yeah, we're going to be spending a bunch of money on folks. And I don't know if the federal government was killing these people anyway.
No, they probably weren't.
But here's the thing. Linda says he did so much damage and even now trying to extend that damage. Trump's not going to. Here's the problem. Trump can spend 4 years trying to undo everything that well, we can't even say that Biden's doing. The folks running this country are doing and the damage it's causing. Or Trump can just forge ahead with his plan and hope that it's enough to undo the damage and maybe take the pieces that really need to be undone and undo them. But if he spends 4 years just trying to undo everything that this regime has done, he'll never get anything accomplished other than that. And then he'll set the Republican Party up for failure 4 years down the road.
Yeah, I agree. Government outrage, it is worthy of outrage when there's government cover-ups. I don't know of a Republican. I'm not saying that the Democrats are any worse than anybody else. They're not. And you'll hear it here all the time. Anything that you hear happening in foreign countries that appalls you, you can bet that the United States has done equal or worse. I don't believe that we send in special forces who rape and pillage. I don't believe the United States does that. I believe we're more civilized. But if you want to talk about wholesale slaughter of people in the name of a mission, I believe it absolutely happens often. I think it's done to send a message. I can't say that I condone it, but I understand it. But I can't think of anything. You go back to
remember all the jokes
Watergate. Yeah. Go back to Watergate. Nixon resigned. Kamala Harris ran as the Democrat nominee for president. There's the difference. That's what the difference a couple of decades makes, is that
Hillary Clinton ran for president and won the popular vote despite manufacturing a whole Russia collusion story.
she made it up. Anything in the quest for power.
Yep.
Anything goes. Vince Foster dead. Now, nobody cares about that stuff anymore. Hillary killed those people. Tell me she didn't.
Oh, I can't tell you she didn't.
I'm telling you, those people, the Clinton regime.
Speaking of a guy
who
didn't kill himself, that
Epstein
AI whistleblower.
Oh,
From about a week or 10 days ago, that all of a sudden was found in his San Francisco apartment, suicided. Didn't happen. Didn't kill himself. Everybody, and the thing is, I know some people who know him and his family. His family's in complete disbelief that he killed himself because he was proud of the fact he was leading the AI charge and some of the cover-ups at ChatGPT.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have friends in the Pacific Northwest who know of the family and the family. There's no way.
Right.
I trust these people more than I trust the authorities investigating this thing.
Jerry McCrugan adds, I think Canada is in the lead of the world for being laughed at due to our leadership, but I guess you could say we're neck and neck. And I think we are. We're going to ask Congressman Cloud what he thinks about Elon Musk. Remind me to.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting with all of this? Remember the jokes that Nancy Reagan was the running the country at the end of Ronald?
They say now proudly that Jill Biden did more administrative work than Joe.
Yeah.
Interesting. Not elected.
No.
I mean, not even.
But
contemplated.
Yeah. But again, I in hindsight, there's probably some truth to that.
Oh, about Nancy? Well, yeah. But the difference is, Ronald Reagan came out to the American people and said, hey, folks, I've got to be honest. I've been diagnosed with, this. I mean, I remember that.
Yeah.
And the country unilaterally.
But the difference is when Ronald Reagan was elected, he wasn't diminished.
No, that's right. Much.
And the country wasn't trying to hide it.
Very interesting.
Yeah. This party pulled the wool over the eyes of half of the voters in this country. And called and gaslit the right
for calling it out.
Yeah.
As you can say, if you're going to deal with stereotypes, most of the time there's some truth in the stereotypes. You could say that half the Republican Party is rednecks and white trash, and that they'll do anything that Donald Trump wants done. I can go to the other side and say that half of the Democrat Party is half of them are disillusioned about the economy, but the other half are just drug heads, weirdos, and people that just want a free handout. And as a result, they don't care that they were lied to by their government. They could not really care any less.
No, because they're making money off the lies that they've consistently told to the government to continue scamming them. Tammy, we're going to get to the debt ceiling stuff when Representative Cloud gets here.
We'll have him here.
But it doesn't give Donald a blank check. What it really did was what it would have done was kept our country from defaulting on our debt, which we've never done. But the left doesn't want to talk about that because once again, Donald Trump wanted to provide tax cuts for Americans in his administration, and this government won't cut spending.
Yeah, that's the deal. The Democrats will blame all the delays on the Republicans while they won't vote on that one issue. We need $1 billion for this and $500 million for that. And it's like
$1 million for a gay old folks home somewhere.
Yeah. It's no different than me and Ash saying, hey, these checks came in from Wade and Carter and they need to go to the bank. Well, I'm busy today. Well, I'm busy today too. Well, I'll do it, but it's for an extra $10. And Ash finally says, fine. Okay, fine. Because I need those checks in the bank. It's exactly the same thing. It's just much more egregious and really childish. They can't just all get together and deal with the financial issue.
No.
It's always got what we used to call pork in it.
And
It's
why?
just embarrassing.
Why could the spending not have been cut instead of having to find how many tens and hundreds of millions more to add to the spending? Or why wasn't the spending level that we just passed to get through December 20th? Why couldn't we have just spent that much again? Why do we have to add to it that much and then more?
Yeah. We all agreed the other day, the thing to do is to make sure that because they always do cue the Sarah McLaughlin or whatever her name is. What's her name?
Sarah McLaughlin?
Yeah. Cue that music. For only pennies a day, you can keep our government open. The idea of letting the government shut down doesn't really bother anybody until they say, think about our military people that are deployed and their wives won't get a check that week. Well, then the government ought to all get together and say, no matter what, we can not fund the National Park Service, but we're going to fund the military.
Yeah.
Let's just do that. I don't think Congress got a raise.
No, I did not include a bipartisan raise.
Is that the uke? She's in the house. Let's get her in a hurry because we're gonna have to. Let's take a quick break. We'll get Christy in here.
She's only 2 weeks and a day late.
Well, and trust me, this is a pure Wade and Carter accommodation. Am I right? Purely Wade, folks. Went Services went for all your electrical needs. Let them get in and help you. Whether you need a new plug, a new generator, a whole house generator, Went Services is the contractor for you. RK Development Group. Let Daniel Rollins help you with your next barn dominium, whatever you need. Daniel's your guy. They've got over 35 years of experience building stuff.
Mostly metal buildings. That's what they like to do. But boy, they can build everything.
Yeah,
and he's
absolutely
a former Marine. Good guy.
Brand us right there. Commander Cody just adjusted a camera for us.
It's amazing he's on the ball when he was worried that we weren't showing today, and maybe he thought we were mad at him.
He is sharp. Yeah, he beat us both here, and as a result, he was ready to go. Atzenoffer.com since 1926. Atzenoffer's your home for a new vehicle. Go by and get a new Chevy. See Tommy Taylor. Ask for Tommy by name. Let him come out and tell you hi. He'll sign autographs, kiss babies, whatever you need. He signs body parts like a NASCAR driver. Tommy Taylor. He can do that for you. Go by and see Atzenoffer. And then Allen's Wrecker Service, 578-6300. Allen is go-to.
Yeah, and they're going to be really busy the next couple of days.
There you go. There's our friend. The applause.
Loud applause. Well, she hasn't been here for so long. The crowd was,
Well,
anxious.
Is it possible? Let's just take a quick aside. Enough about you right now. Let's talk about us. Is it possible that we found her as like a little fledgling? She'd been kicked out of the nest, couldn't fly.
Kicked out, that's extreme.
We bundled her up, made sure her wings were fine, and then poof, we set her free. She's excelled. She used to come in tremendously intimidated, scared.
Made sure none of that little fluffy feather stuff was there to hinder her flying.
You guys all the credit.
As you should, but the thing is, now
it sounds worse than it was.
But now, no, you were hanging on by a mere tether when we found you.
Tether.
You were on the short list.
This is how stories start.
Right.
This is good.
Wade and Carter. Well, where's it going to be reported? There's no newspaper.
Well, now it's all due to you and how you build people up and
Right,
make them who they are.
There you
It's
go.
not even about me. It's about y'all. Once again.
There you go.
Perfect.
Did you bring your normal gratuity for the station?
You mean like a plant?
Well, look at it. Look at it thriving over there. It's happy.
It is still alive.
More than alive. It's
Scott
thriving.
Tonko says it's not poof, it's poop.
I think we need to bring a friend.
Well, if you do, I will accommodate.
If you brought a friend, you'd have to show up more often.
That's true.
How
I thought
are
about
you?
that this morning. I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't bring something else.
Well, how are you? First of all, how's your family?
They're all fabulous. Yeah.
They are fabulous.
Yeah.
What's going on? They got a cleanup day coming, I bet.
You think we do. We don't. We don't actually. We do, but
She's
it's
done
not.
her job so well that they don't even do it anymore.
No, we don't have to.
We
You
don't
just-
do it.
no.
You know what? If
There's
everyone
a recognition for those that
if
helped the last
everyone
one.
just cleaned up, then we would.
That'll be, hey, in 10 years, you people get outside, clean up your yards. That'll be your message, which has been our message since day one.
We do have our next cleanup will be in February, and that'll be a neighborhood cleanup. But what we're going to do in January is honor our volunteers. So we're going to serve them. The chopping block is coming out to serve them.
Very nice.
Nice.
Some great food from chopping block. And Del Papa's going to be there. And we're going to have awards, and it's just fun. We're going to do that January 14th. So if any of those listening have been to a cleanup, and I hope many of them have.
There have been so many great folks have shown up. I mean, I've been there when there's over 100.
Oh, yeah. And at the
Easily
big
over 100.
ones, we have close to 400 all over the city. So
And Daryl Lesack,
most of the time.
Well,
Yeah.
you need 100 people just to pick up his mess.
right? Yeah. Isn't it funny? You're having a cleanup and like they've got like breakfast tacos and stuff, and Daryl just like drops his wrapper on the ground. Everybody's eating it. He's just
It's a
unwrapped.
test.
Yeah.
It's a test. He wants to see who's going to run and pick it up.
And those people from HEB just dive on it. It's mine. It's mine. It's great stuff.
Yeah, it is good. So we want to honor all of our volunteers because that's what it's about, and our sponsors as well. So it's just a time to come together and right after the holidays. And then
January what?
January 14th, it's a Tuesday. It's at the Community Center Annex.
Well, that'll be
And
great.
we'll have a little music. John Paul Ortiz is going to have music for us. And it'll be nice and chill and time to celebrate. And we'll give out awards.
Very nice. I think we should make a flyby.
I think you need to.
We
Might
were
have to.
invited, by the way. We've been
Officially.
invited,
You
officially
have it.
invited.
Of course
Yes,
you are.
ma'am. Thank you.
Y'all have been
We
big
just haven't
supporters.
RSVP'd.
Yeah, that would be a problem. I need you on the list.
Okay, we're there. We're on the list. We'll be
Go,
there.
go on the sign of genius and put your
I'll do
name.
that. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
What else is happening? Are you a big holiday person? Do you do all the decorating and all that, or do you just? Or some people absolutely dread the holidays. It's like it's unproductive time at work. It's
Oh, I think it would be sad if you dreaded it too much. I mean,
Fair.
it's a beautiful time.
absolutely
I'm not a big decorator. I like my tree. I like my traditional stuff. Like I put up the same freaking ribbon. I put up the same ornaments. I really am not a big let's have a themed tree. I think it's great when people do, but mine's just the same. It's always been. I have the same bows. I think I
Right.
made 30 years ago.
it's that aluminum
Wow.
tree with the color wheel.
Yes.
You know,
yes,
and
it's
the
kinda like that.
icicles.
Yeah, I mean, what works.
Just go with it.
Someday this will come back into fashion.
It does though.
And it's like it does.
I know.
It
It
That's
has.
for real. I thought things would not come back into fashion. Are y'all shocked sometimes? I'm like,
Like bell bottoms.
Like high-waisted jeans.
high-waisted jeans. Blows
I
my
can
mind.
remember as a kid taking out it had a huge, it was almost like a heat lamp. It was like the precursor to a floodlight. And there were like 3 or 4 little plastic pieces that slid into the frame that made the color wheel.
Yeah.
And then you had to assemble that. And then you plugged it in and the tree was made out of aluminum. It was shiny.
So you had one of those?
Sure.
Literally. But I bet
Yes.
it was so fun to put it together
It
and
was.
see it light. I mean, that's the whole
And if the
point of
motor
it.
on that color wheel ever stopped, that gel
just
film would burn.
It.
Yeah.
Burn it.
Oh.
Then you had
It's a fire
you'd be like,
hazard.
it's green, it's blue, it's black, it's
Oh, it
green,
just
it's
burned.
blue, it's black. Yeah, that's how it did.
What happened to yellow?
And then the right. I see the Christmas tree and it has all turned black. Yeah.
Or what about the big Santa that would be? I remember my grandparents had one. It was all lit up with this big circle. It was so obnoxious. But
Your
those are back
grandparents
too.
were on LSD.
I'm telling you,
That's-
you'd never know it. They were so chill. But when I looked at that Santa, I thought, oh my gosh.
Think about the people that look back and they remember their grandmother like answering the door in something tie-dyed with like beads around her neck, and that they had the
A moo
and the thing
Moo-moo?
that it wasn't
That goes
a curtain.
with the beads.
what's the thing that's in the doorway that's like got all the beads
yeah,
hanging?
yeah.
You walk through
The
that.
bead curtain.
Bead
Yeah, like
curtain.
what if your grandmother, was a hippie? That's pretty cool.
That is cool.
That'd be.
My grandparents were not hippies.
No, mine weren't.
Definitely
either.
not. Yeah.
Mine weren't either.
But my mom has the bead curtain. My mom's definitely hippie-ish, but not my grandparents. No way.
Very cool.
Bead curtains were useless. They didn't block
No,
anything.
what is the point of them, really? There's no point to bead
Not really.
curtains.
No, they're just, they're just
Something to trip on.
cool. But I think about them every time I'm at Sam's and they have that plastic curtain that insulates you from the cold room. Yeah, I think about the bead curtain.
But bead curtains look better than that.
True story.
They do.
What else
And does
is
that
going
thing
on?
really keep any
Well,
cold in?
I can announce our beautification winner.
That's always a big hit with our audience.
This is a great one. It's Hospice of South Texas on Salem Road. And so if you've seen it, and I think it's been there since like 2017 or so.
Okay.
But it's on a huge piece of property, really, and they keep it so well maintained, and they have these neat, rocks and more native drought tolerant plants in the front. But then if you go down the drive, they have a beautiful like garden and like little pergola, because if you're, what they do is to create serenity
Right.
and dignity.
Now, where are they?
They're on
and
Salem
where?
Road.
Like which are they? You got the Loop, you got Stockbauer, you got.
It's on the far side, so not past the Loop.
But towards the Loop.
Yes.
Okay, because I'm thinking of the hospice place that's on Millette.
No, this one's on Salem.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's where I was. But they do a wonderful job, and they have a huge group of volunteers that do it all, which is even more wonderful,
That's
because the
awesome.
people that take care of such a special place, it's really important. So we are really happy to award them for this month.
I do have,
Awesome.
I just had one of those, and we've had several good ideas, you and me together here, just kind of brainstorming.
Yeah. You have another one?
I have a good one right now.
Uh-oh.
You know how you see those deals all the time, Ash, where it says, this mile of highway adopted by Ineos, and that their people go out there once a month and clean it up. What if we
You mean adopt a highway? You want to?
that? But what if we
Spend
did
time.
adopt for lack? Maybe we always have these catchy new poop and all that. What about adopt an eyesore? What if we had?
Well, you're already labeling it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. You can't label things anymore.
You
Okay.
can't call it an eyesore.
Okay, adopt an opportunity.
There you go.
Adopt-opportunity. Okay, there you have it. Adopt
Okay, I like that. That's
And
good.
what we're going to do is we're going to accept nominations from our listeners about, a place that doesn't really look great but could look great, XYZ, blank. And I'm just making this up. Okay, but say the Children's Museum on Sam Houston. I can't tell you exactly what it looks like now. I know it has a beautiful mural on it. It's a pretty place. So you decide, though, that it would look better with some big pots and flowers.
So
and
just offer to say, hey, we could bring some potted plants over.
And we happen to know that you have a small budget for such things. And we also know that we can have a group of volunteers agree to maintain. And
it would be more like, I would call it a partnership.
Yes.
Right.
But it would be a gift to that business.
Mm-hmm.
And because nobody wants their place of business to be unattractive, but they're too busy.
They
or
probably
they're-
don't want it to be pointed out that it's unattractive either.
I was going to say, that's why
Then
adoptability
maybe
might
more
be.
people might get out there and start doing it on their
Yeah.
own.
Exactly.
Well, and I think some of it is that people are sometimes, especially if you have a place that's got a lot of concrete in front of it, you're like, what am I going to do with this? Like, all I
USA
need-
concrete.
but there's things you can do. And maybe people are too busy to think about it. So
True
that's a
story.
pretty good idea.
We could find a way we'll let it sit for 6
Okay.
weeks and then we'll rebrand it.
What do you call it? Marinate on it.
Yeah, and
Or
then we'll
percolate.
rebrand.
Marinate and
Percolate, yeah.
percolate on it.
So when you come back in 8 weeks,
No, you're going to come back in January.
But I want an even bigger applause. See, if I wait,
That was big applause.
That
I
was
get a
big,
bigger
yeah.
applause.
Absolutely.
I can get
So-
you bigger ones as you leave.
Oh, there you go.
That's just rude.
No,
It
I
was
had
good.
I had
It
to
was great.
wait and see Ash before, he remembered. Oh yeah. Oh, Christy, you haven't been here in
Oh,
a
yeah.
while.
But you'll know it's better because what's her name?
Let's see.
That's when you'll know it's a
That's
problem.
when you know it's working, because then you hardly remember.
Right.
And then I am a surprise. You don't even remember what we
Well,
talked
I
about.
didn't want to out her husband, but when I ran into the two of them, he's like, man, you really need to get her on your show more often so I can get her out of the house in the morning.
Right. She's
In the
killing
morning.
me.
Should get her out of here earlier.
Well, we hope that you have a wonderful Christmas and a blessed holiday season and that all your dreams come true. And then let's work together in 25 to continue the great work that your department does with, keeping Victoria beautiful, making Victoria beautiful. You do a great job.
Well, thanks
We
you guys
really
for all your
appreciate it.
support
So.
and your listeners too. And don't forget, January 14th, I'll see you guys there. Don't forget, go RSVP.
We'll be there.
Yes, ma'am. Bye, Christy.
Crazy.
So that's Christy Euger. She's beyond awesome. Very, very dedicated, very, very thoughtful person. Does a ton of work. Folks, get by Chesnick Furniture. Chesnick and Love make your house a home. See why you just always do better at Chesnick. Whether you want a best recliner, American-made furniture, bedding, Tempur-Pedic bedding, Sealy,
They've got it all.
Stearns and Foster, very high-end quality traditional bedding. White Trash Services, very traditional
Trash-tastic
quality
holiday.
trash elimination. Let White Trash Services help you. The greatness. White Trash Services can help you. Call them at 550-1826. Give the gift that keeps on giving. Give the gift of a year of prepaid trash service. What a great gift for a loved one or a neighbor or somebody who just needs it. Reach out and give them that. Palace Bingo, where friends meet friends.
We haven't figured out yet in
We'll
January
get to-
when
it's not
we will
even
meet.
January
I
yet.
know, that's why. I haven't figured out yet.
We'll get with you.
USA Concrete Coatings, 578 Home for all your concrete coating needs. They can turn a garage floor into something. I was talking to somebody the other day who redid their own garage floor, and it's already coming up. So
They
don't-
regretted it.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it.
There you go.
And get to Veracruz today. Let them do your cooking.
Fantastic. Veracruz, best Mexican food in town, period. Full stop. Just stop.
Hashtag at the bottom.
There you go. By the way, right here, you ready?
I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Boom, right there. You asked, we delivered. There is our Congressman, United States Representative,
Good morning.
Congressman Mike McLeod. Hello, sir.
Road weary, battle tested after last week.
We were headed
Let's pull
to.
that up a little bit. Yeah. There we go.
There we go.
Oh, that's perfect.
Beauty.
We were headed to an interview last week. My comms director looks at me and says, "Today's been quite a month." I was like,
No kidding.
pretty much what the week was like every day. But
Well, we tried a couple of days last week, and you were just because of what was the circus that was going on.
yeah,
Let's start there. Had a funding bill, then the president-elect got involved and tried to nix it, and then we thought we had his deal done, and then it was not really his deal anymore. And walk us through that whole process, because I don't think you were for any of it.
yeah. Well, there's a lot of wonky details involved with it, but the gist of it, we had the typical Christmas tree funding bill. Last week when we left DC, it was going to be pretty simple, clean CR. There's some disaster aid for hurricane people who, were in the hurricanes, and then helping our farmers. Right now, the economics of the whole thing are messed up. So they were going to extend the farm bill 1 year and then put some disaster and some economic aid in there. And so that was the plan coming in. Coming back, it was the typical Christmas tree thing that happens every Congress. We kick the can down the road till the week before Christmas so everybody can put their pet projects on it. And then it turns into this massive thing, 1,500 pages, 24 hours to read the bill. Myself and a few others were like, this is crazy. It's going to be ridiculous. Actually, it was kind of funny that morning because, we've been here a number of times before. And so we're like, okay, what we need to do is we need to get a vote on record to try to get a pay for amendment to really just show that we're not even willing to pay for this. We thought that was going to be the
Right.
biggest win. We'd love to kill the bill, but, we've been down this road before. So we'll message to the people about what's going on. Well, that messaging caught on this time, and Elon and Vivek and amplified that messaging. And then by the end of the day, the bill was dead. So that was good. And then the president threw out this idea about raising the debt ceiling, which I appreciate the fact that he's thinking ahead strategically. And the issue,
because my understanding after reading over the weekend on this wasn't so he could just have a bunch of blank checks. It was so that we didn't default on the debt for the first time ever in the history of this country. Correct?
What the issue is a lot of people think, okay, we have the trifecta, we have the House, we have the Senate, we have the White House. The roads are clear. That is helpful, but it's not. In the Senate, you still need 60% to do most things, which we do not have. We have 53, 54, right? So, depending on the issue. What he's doing is looking ahead, and I appreciate the fact that finally we have a leadership who understands leverage, who understands negotiating, who's thinking strategically and those kind of things. And so he was looking ahead going, we need to take the debt ceiling off the table so that Chuck Schumer can't use it against us, withhold those 40 some plus votes.
Yeah, and that's what
and
when
then
you mentioned leverage.
add a bunch of things on it. So he's looking ahead. Now number of us in the House have already been thinking through next year. There's 2 steps of reconciliation that are coming next year that also only take 50 votes in the Senate. And so we were looking at the February, early March, passing that first reconciliation package that would have a bunch of border fix stuff in it, and then also take the debt ceiling off the table then. And so that's where the conversation was going. And then suddenly the president jumped in and said, hey, it'd be great if we could get it off the table now. And so a number of us went to work on that. We said, if we're going to do that, we need a promise from the Republicans, because we've been down this road before too. Well, we'll raise the debt ceiling, and we promise to rein in the spending. And so we worked to get that deal, got very close to it, walked out of the speaker's office thinking we had a deal on that, and to bring the bills as single subject bills, which we promised to do 2 years ago. We left, came back an hour later, and that deal apparently was off the table. All that we know that happened in between then is that the speaker went to meet with Hakeem Jeffries. We came back to meet with all the Republicans, where he was going to present, hey, here's where we're going. And by then the direction had changed, and we were back to the non-single subject bills.
Yeah.
It was a better bill because it wasn't 1,500 pages, but still not where we want it to be.
When I listened to everything that was going on, I can see where certain groups get frustrated with President Trump, because he's not such a status quo guy. I mean, you heard him say, if you're a Republican and you vote this way, you're going to be primaried. He's basically saying, I'm going to put the leverage of the office of the president against you because of your vote on. It was like a mass strafing of intimidation, which I think is one reason that so many of the unelected bureaucrats get frustrated with him, because he has that big leverage stick if he needs it.
Which is funny, because the Democrat Party does the exact same thing, and they get applauded for it. But the president-elect Trump does it or threatens it, and he's lauded for it. Right?
And
they can't stand it.
But it doesn't offend me, because in this case, the president was, right. But here's my question. I think a question that's looming out there for everybody: what real role do you perceive for Elon Musk, aside from the DOGE deal? He seems to be President Trump's dinner partner, confidant, golf buddy. Is he like a fourth or fifth branch of government? Does he have too much stroke?
The thing about him, you think about all the billionaires that have been funding the Democratic Party, who've been, pulling secret strings, and you wonder where the money's coming and all these different kind of things. What he's doing is very transparent. I mean, he's stating his opinion. His opinion resonated with the American people, and they began to call congressional offices. And so that's the difference. What he's doing is above board. If he says he's going to spend money, and he's not looking for shadow shells to get it through. He says it out there.
Yeah.
We met with him. The Republicans met with him a few weeks ago, right after the election. He came there with Vivek to talk about, all the Doge stuff that they're doing. And it was interesting, if not comical, because everybody gets in line and they're like, yeah, this is where we can cut. We can do, we're behind you. We're super, super excited about it. These people who've never voted for a cut in their life, or
Right.
now suddenly found religion, which I hope we're there. I really hope we're there. And that was
Me
part
too.
of the discussion this week. We hope we're there. Let's actually show that we have a plan, that we're going to, yes, we need to possibly raise the debt ceiling so we don't run up against that wall. I mean, basically the way the bill was written last time, and this was one of the issues with Kevin McCarthy when he passed the debt ceiling bill last time, he put the deadline right at the beginning of the Trump term. And so now Trump's up against the wall. And so again, we were working to take that off the table. Again, we were looking at February, but we wanted some understanding from the Republican Party in the conference there that we are going to be serious about cutting back, that we're going to find savings for the American people to offset raising the debt ceiling. And so that work continues, obviously.
What kind of leadership or what role, from a power standpoint, what do you think about Speaker Johnson going forward? How's he going to do?
This was definitely a drop ball. A lot of people have tried to point, and I don't fault anyone where they ended up on the vote this week in a sense that it was a quagmire. It's a quagmire that was easily avoided. And that's the frustrating point, because it was really a failure of leadership, not a failure of the rank and file. A number of weeks ago, we're trying to talk to the speaker saying, hey, these are some pinch points that are coming up on these bills. Let us in the loop on the table. I'm on the Appropriations Committee, and as they were developing the bill, the Appropriations staff was working on the bill, but would not give us, as members of the committee, access to the information to be able to help find savings, to find the pinch points.
Time to fire all those
different kind of
staffers
things.
on
That's
the
right.
Appropriations
And so,
Committee.
we had a meeting with one of the members of the speaker's staff, and he said, we're fighting hard on this to bring in this and, find these savings and get this bill where we need to. And I said, who's we? And he went, well, it's the Senate staff and this and that and the other. And I said, so no one in the room is an elected official. And that was a matter of the
That's
fact.
the truth.
So
That's
staff
right.
working with staff, presenting a product that we're supposed to take it or leave it. That's not how Congress is supposed to work.
Amen. 100%.
That's what Brett and I were talking about earlier this morning. Thomas Massey has come out, representative from Kentucky, and basically said Speaker Johnson has to go. Are you in that camp?
He has a lot to answer for right now. I want to be careful about putting us in a box with a thin majority, but I have some very strong concerns, which I've expressed to him over several months.
You've talked to him directly. I remember you saying at one point that it's not, you can't be 2.0 and you've got to be this and you've got to be that, and he's not responding. It's a leadership
I
problem.
haven't seen the course correction that we needed or expected, I will say. And so it's going, we have to have a change of course.
That was Congress speak.
We
Did
have
you
to have
hear
a
that?
change of course.
I haven't seen can you see him like in the speaker's office? I haven't seen the change of course that we expected. You're done. Clear out your desk. Nothing personal.
A lot of talk about a pay raise that would have been in the bill, wasn't in the bill, is in the bill. Can you clear that up?
It's not in the final bill that passed. I guess there was one in the 1,500-page bill. I heard that it was some extraordinary amount. I think it was actually
40% is some of the reports I've seen.
Yeah, I don't think that was. It's what it is for the last 17 years. There's a cost of living adjustment, and that's supposed. Congressional pay a long time ago, a couple decades ago, they tied it to the judiciary pay scale, I guess. And so every year in the last, I think, 17 years, Congress has actually passed a law saying, no, we're not giving you a cost of living adjustment. We're not giving ourselves a cost of living adjustment. And so this time that was removed, I guess, out of the bill. That's been kind of perfunctory to put that in.
Okay.
Well, no
and so
offense,
it would have been like.
You guys are the ones creating the cost of living.
No, I know.
I mean, that's the whole problem.
We create inflation, and then like every secretary that comes to us, it's like, oh, we need more money because it's like, yeah,
It's like,
you
have
create the
looked
problem,
at-
and then
have you guys looked at the price of groceries? Like they raise taxes? Do you?
right.
Tammy says it was $90,000.
It went from like 170 something to 240 something, I think is the number I saw. Would you be supportive of, that Congress doesn't get X, Y, or Z unless they present a balanced budget?
Yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
if-
I mean,
if
for
you
me,
were-
I'm content. That's not my motivation.
Amen.
I mean,
We know that. That's why we're asking you very candidly.
I haven't even focused on that issue because we're trying to get Congress to work, and I believe in merit and right now. I think Congress's approval rating's pretty low. So
That's fair. I mean, that's objective.
you know,
Not much merit. Yeah. We've often talked term limits. I had a really interesting discussion with somebody. I'm not going to name them because I don't know if they want to be, but
Steve Johnson.
I see.
Speaker Johnson, actually. But we came to the conclusion that maybe the term limits need to be imposed on the staffers and those that work on Capitol Hill and have accrued this so-called power and have been there for so long. There was some sort of neutering of them in some ways when they couldn't go lobby for 5 years after you leave or whatever, right? But that seems to be where the power is coalesced, is the staffers and not necessarily somebody who's been there as a backbencher for 20 years.
Yeah, and I'm not, I'm for term limits for congressmen, but if that's all you do, you will basically neuter your most direct and accessible connection with the federal government. The staff right now, in many ways, have run the show, and this is what we've been working on for the last several years to change that dynamic. We had made a bunch of headway. There's been a retraction from that a little bit, and we've been trying to push to get that corrected once again. But this is one of the big deals, is with the real power strongholds right now. The staff run a lot of what happens in Congress.
Well, you just identified
and then the
it,
executive branch, people talk about stopping stock trading, example, for members of Congress, which I'm all for. I'm co-sponsor on that bill, but we also wrote another bill saying we need to do the same for the executive branch, because you have generals at the Pentagon. You're like, are you making a decision because you want to be on the board of Raytheon in a year, or are you making a decision
Yes,
because
they
this
are.
is the best strategic interest of the? But I mean, and I'm not picking on the Pentagon any more than I would any other agency, but that, you can say FDA, HHS, I mean, anything, and so we need to have that happen as well. And what happens is, and rightfully so, we should get scrutiny. We're working for the people, that's all appropriate. But at the same time, you have all these hidden areas of power that aren't accountable at all, kind of operating outside the light of day. And so we've got to rein in that strength and that power as well.
To a degree, you could make the argument that if you put term limits, which Ash always correctly points out, you've got term limits, go vote. But if you put term limits on congressmen, the staffers are probably for that. Because, like, those of you that learn your way around D.C. and learn that, that guy, he's pretty important because he works for this guy that's on that committee and for this guy that's on that committee.
All right.
That guy's still going to be there, and that guy's still going to be an unelected bureaucrat, whether you leave Congress or not. There is the argument. I bet you those high-powered staffers are like, they're all for term limits. Let's rotate these bozos out.
Because when the next guy or girl comes in, I'm going to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much true. To me, I look at the task a lot as restructuring the power structure to reorient it back to what the founders intended. And so there's a lot of ways to do that, and certainly us dealing with the federal branch. Right now Biden's signing all these contracts with federal employees on the way out the door. He
shouldn't be allowed to do that anymore.
Anyone serving in the executive branch who is not serving at the pleasure of the president constitutes a fourth unconstitutional branch of government. And so the president should be able to come in and execute on what he was elected to do.
Yeah, and I know we're pushing up on the top of the hour, but I think we'll carry on. For those of you on Facebook or YouTube, stay with us. If you're on Magic, when the Tejano music starts at 8 o'clock, come on over to Facebook and you can keep listening to the conversation.
Or keep listening to Magic 95.9. We're not trying to take away listeners from the mothership.
No, but if you want to hear what the congressman has to say, unless you don't, then stay where you are.
We can roll a little track of some Tejano underneath.
Interesting. I could fire some up here.
I'll do it.
Yeah. Interesting. Lost sort of in the wake of last week's budget talk there was revelation that the Biden administration was selling off all the border wall, billions of dollars for pennies on the dollar. Reports that in some cases they were actually cutting up the supplies to make it seem like because some of this stuff had to meet sort of damaged material or something or unusable material. But again, one of those things that kind of got snuck into a bill because they're 8 million pages. And I don't think anybody realized it until, oh yeah, they're selling this stuff off. Oh yeah, it was part of this bill.
Yeah, and this just shows you the disdain the Biden administration has had toward the American people. You know, not only did we already pay for that during the Trump administration for those materials, you know, it came out in a hearing when I questioned Mayorkas, the fact, you know, he didn't want to admit that they were paying to store it. So not only did we pay for the materials, we've been paying to store it and do nothing with it for the last 4 years. And then now at the last minute, oh, we're just going to sell it off pennies on the dollar, you know, except unless you're Texas and want to buy it and build it yourself.
Right.
or someone who might actually use it for what it was built for, you know, and this, again, the American people spoke very clearly just a few weeks ago that this is what they want. And nevertheless, they're doing everything they can to make
You
sure.
feel optimistic? You think these are going to go well for the country come up early next year?
Yeah, the big thing that I look at this approach, we're going to have some great years. There's a lot President Trump can do just through executive order and through his leadership to get our economy going in the right direction, to secure our border, to, you know, fix a number of the big issues. I mean, already you see him leading on the world stage and countries coming to him and already
he
shifting the
mentions
power.
tariffs, and all of a sudden Mexico snaps into line. I like that.
So you already see a change in that regard. My biggest concern from where I sit, and I feel my responsibility is, we have to make sure that those have a sense of permanence to it, and this isn't just a bubble of goodness, I guess, for the next few years, right? And so that's the reasons like why we approach what we did this year. We have to get Congress to be able to give some sense of permanence to the change that President Trump is talking about, so that it's not just a blip on our historical radar, but it is actually a fundamental course correction.
Absolutely. By the way, everybody knows, but we're visiting with Congressman Cloud. I always like to point out Michael Cloud's always been extremely accessible. He sends out his report card to the people every week. If you want to catch a newsletter, you can find Mike at cloud.house.gov. Yeah, he's there. You Google him. You know, actually, if you're not smart enough to find him, you probably won't understand the newsletter. There you have it. We always appreciate you coming on, and we're not in any hurry to run off either. I mean, if you've got another question for him.
Linda Chris says the replacement's going to cost the people a huge amount during a time when even groceries are a stretch, and that's a slap in the face. Is there anything in this bill, the spending bill that was passed, that will hamstring President Trump's ability? Because I know that was a concern prior to, is that he was worried that, or some were worried that they were going to put some spending or some measures in place that would basically not allow the deportations to take place.
Right.
Is there anything in this bill that does that?
I think we're okay in that regard. We will need to fund early on some things to make sure that happens. We need extra beds. We'll need, you know, Border Patrol.
Well, you know what? Let's just put them in. Let's just put them in
all
that,
those different kind of things.
Well,
so
let's just, instead of building that gay senior citizens home that was in the bill, let's just build it and put them in there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options of what needs to be done, you know. So we've already been working a timeline out the next year when things need to hit the different pinch points. Border is going to be extremely important. We've got to get that funded. Also, close some of the loopholes that the courts continued to take advantage of last time. You know, I mean, all those different kind of things are going to have to be done very, very early to get the Trump administration going. We met with Tom Homan this week. Again, he's just, you know, like a horse in the starting gate.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I mean, talk
know.
about a guy who was interim director of Homeland Security, the previous administration. Boy, he's really shown that the interim tag was
a lot of people may not know this, but he has a Victoria connection. So if you remember the trailer with 19 migrants,
yes,
I mean, that was his case. So, so he, you know, has a Victoria connection. So when we see each other, I mean, he knows we're on the map. So
when these debt issues come up, is there any way that everybody could get together? I can't even imagine the Democrats being against the idea of, number one, we all agree we're going to fund our military's salaries. That's always one of the deals. I joked with Ash. You have the Sarah McLaughlin music in the background. for pennies a day, you can adopt a soldier.
All right.
We need to make sure that we fund the military's payroll and the issue of the debt ceiling and the budget on do we shut down the government? That should be a standalone deal, nothing else involved in it.
Yeah, what would be great is if we could pass a bill that prioritized and this is the honest truth. When the Democrats are being charged, we hit to a shutdown. They figure out how painful to make it. You remember the World War II memorial? They put fences around it. We had a shutdown in the Trump administration. They just began to prioritize. What are we going to do first? Well, we're going to send out the Social Security checks. Of course, we're going to pay our military first. They can do extraordinary measures to kind of move stuff around and just prioritize. And we're not going to pay for the frivolous stuff. Yeah. Some would think like that's a great way to get rid of some of our government that we don't need. But in this particular case, back in September when they were negotiating and working on the CR that got us to the Christmas, thing, they were wanting to have it a couple of weeks earlier, like the week before the 15th. And we said, you have to push it past the 15th to make sure the military get paid. That way, worst case, if anything happens, if there is a shutdown, the military still get paid. And then we'd have to come back, obviously, January 4th and
work on it again.
Fix it. But, so that was definitely a concern as we went into it. But us being able to do something like that to where, that's kind of off the negotiating table to where, because we shouldn't be using them as the pawns in the leverage game.
And that's always, it's always them and Social Security recipients, right?
Right.
Why can't Congress... And I'm lumping you in, but I'm not lumping you into the blame because you have always been a champion for doing this. But why can't we get back to actually the budget process that we're supposed to in funding the 12 appropriations or however many it is, and then let's move on to other things? Why can't we do that?
It makes sense, right? To me. Yeah, it makes sense to me. But I mean, there's power structures that like it is. One of the things I was concerned with, we had the calendar that come out. We had 4 or 5 meetings in the Speaker's office and other leadership offices last year with several members of Congress in it talking about the fact that we needed to change this year's calendar. I mean, we're gone in August, then we come back 3 weeks later, we had the funding deadline for the government, and we're supposed to pass 12 appropriations bills. Maybe that's not the best structure. Well, sure enough, the calendar comes out this year after all the meetings we had, and it's virtually the same calendar that we've always had.
Right.
And it was just like we can't, if it takes that much effort, we can't even change a calendar. And they're like, well, we're working on moving it toward that. And I'm like,
because all those staffers already had their Disney World vacations
changing
planned.
the calendar should not be a multi-term process.
We got a question from a listener. Ricky King wants to know, because you always talk about passing one bill at a time. He goes, do you ever think Congress will get to that point where we'll vote with a bill with one item on it and be done with it?
We got pretty close to it, and we're making progress for the first part of this term, what I called rewriting the muscle memory of Congress. It wasn't perfect, but we were headed in the right direction. We were kind of, getting those muscles sore and, a couple missteps, but headed in the right direction. And then it really just kind of went off the rails. One of the big things, like literally, this week, we were in the Speaker's office. It's up on the whiteboard. I have pictures of what it was. Like, this was the stated agreement. We will raise the debt ceiling for this much. We will reduce our spending this much. Can we all get to that point? And with that, we will offer the bills this week as single subject bills instead of throwing them all on the pot. Everybody will be able to vote their conscience, and then we'll send it over to the Senate. And so that's what it was. And this is what we're doing today. Left the Speaker's office. Okay, great. Glad we could get agreement on this. Everybody walked out, and again, an hour later, it was.
But those things that are always lumped together, those things that are tucked away in 1,547 page bills. Those are things that don't make sense to the majority of the people, and they're like built-in compromises, right? It's like, well, we're so close. I mean, what's $500,000 for new
gender studies
at
in
the gender study? Yeah, so what? Let's get it done. And I know that compromise gets things done. I understand that. But I think if it doesn't stand on its own, don't do it. You get these people that are whining about the DOGE thing, and I'm like, hey, look, anything, no matter what party you affiliate with, anything that reduces the size of the federal government and returns power to the states is something you should be for.
Yeah, one of the big parameters, because we have all these votes on suspension, which are supposed to be non-controversial things, and I just really look at them through the lens of does this grow the government or shrink the government? I mean, it's
Amen.
It's kind of that getting to be to where that should be one of the major things right now. We've got, it's just so grown, it's massive, it's different. But to your point with Elon, we had that meeting a few weeks ago, and the kind of just entrepreneurial thinking they bring to it it's really like, we're thinking, okay, there's been a lot of waste, fraud, abuse, error that's literally billions and billions of dollars out the door, a lot of it going to China even. How do we deal with that? And we're all thinking, okay, we got to rewrite this law or this and put together this report to find out how much waste is this. And he's like, which office has the printer that prints the checks?
He seems like a really cool
He's like,
cat.
it took me about 3 months to figure that out. Apparently he's like, I asked that, people are like, I don't know, what do you mean? He's like who's clicking the button? It says print the check.
I picture Elon walking up to Congressman Cloud and saying, "Hey, Mike, what's up, Elon Musk? By the way, what product are you using on your hair these days? It looks fantastic." I mean, I actually think of him as like an approachable billionaire. Like he might be a decent guy.
My interactions with him, he certainly seems to be that way. I mean, he didn't end. He's not. I mean, for the longest time, he tried to stay out of the political world, and then realized Western civilization was at stake. And I think it was yesterday or the day before was somebody posted like 2 years or 7 years ago today was the original. Somebody's like, I love Twitter. And somebody said, you should buy it. And he's like, how much is it? And so the tweet thread that kind of changed the course of history, right?
Well, it's funny because the left came after him. They tried to find somebody to claim that he was a rapist, and I mean, all this the usual
typical,
playbook, yeah.
Sad,
and it just it held no water. But I had a question. Linda Chris says, unfortunately, the country's at a point where 500 grand is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And the time for compromise on silly stuff is over. I agree, it is, but we're not quite there yet, unfortunately. Gone.
I don't know.
I have
Why don't
one.
we do this? Why don't we
Was it
just
about
tell the
Canada?
congressman to have
It wasn't about Canada, but that's an interesting
51st
51st,
state?
52nd, or 53rd state. Which
That's a
which
little
one's your
rude.
money on?
The president was a little rude on that one. You would never say,
I don't get to talk to Canadians.
right.
Only when you're here, right?
But Trump, I mean, I could see the Canadians being a little bit offended at, well, I'll just make you the 51st state.
Well, guess which ones were offended? The left. The
But
ones on the right
Canadians
were
are fired
laughing
up.
at it.
The Canadians are ready.
I met a few months ago with maybe 15 members of Parliament, right?
Yeah.
And they told us while the Biden administration was getting rid of the safe third country for Mexico, he also made the U.S. a safe third country for Canada. I mean, this just shows you the duplicity of what's been going on and how I mean, I think Trump is right to point out, like, they've kind of been taking. I mean, if Trudeau's going to come and say basically our government cannot stand on its own unless we're getting money from you. I mean, it's like, well, thank you for letting me know we're in that strong of a negotiating position.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
We'd like to adopt you. In Canada right now, the music's playing.
Well, and Sarah McLachlan is Canadian, so there you go. Commander Cody just said, for pennies a day, you can adopt Canada.
Unbelievable. Well, sir, we hope you have a wonderful
Yeah,
Christmas.
absolutely.
Likewise.
And how long are you in the district, and when do you have to go back?
We're here through Christmas. January 3rd is when the session begins.
Back to work.
So I'll be up January 2nd, if not before then. So
Awesome.
We appreciate all you do, and you're doing a great job. We don't get any. Do we get any feedback that people are upset with the congressman?
I'm sure there's got to be some.
There's that 25% that did
Oh, I
vote
know.
for him in
I know what I
November,
want to
but
ask you
other than
about.
that,
Now that all the serious stuff and we've solved all the budget stuff, I want to go on record as saying that your photo on your newsletter of you on the roof, clearly baffled by the Christmas lights, clearly confused, with the Santa hat on, I said that is a gratuitous. I think I texted you. That's a gratuitous photo opportunity, and you said that the kids and the family demanded that you wear the hat.
Yeah, we always, for us, it's day after Thanksgiving is put up Christmas stuff. We joke about the fact that it's like sacrilegious to put it up the day before, even. You know? But day after, we're putting up Christmas lights, and so did what we've done every year. But while we were up doing it, you know, the kids are handing me the lights and everything, and making sure I don't fall off a ladder, and so we were joking about that while we were up there, and my son's like, "Oh, you have to post that. You have to post it." So he took the picture, and anyway, so it was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you sent back, and the kids demanded that I wear that.
Ken McKeely asked, how much electricity does Canada supply to the U.S.? Which Ford? Doug Ford, I think, the Premier of Ontario or Mayor of Toronto. I don't know which one he is anymore. He suggested that Canada not sell electricity to the U.S., and I believe the Premier of Quebec said, speak for yourself, Ontario.
They paid for it. America pays for it.
Exactly. There's
The other
way
thing is-
too much money going into Quebec hydro.
Have y'all seen the Ontario commercials? It's interesting, the commercials you see in DC versus, you know, here at home, because, you know, they're trying to message to people in DC, and a lot of times, you know, we don't get a lot of commercials from Raytheon down here, right?
Right.
But up there, it's
Up there.
you know, their billboards and everything. But right when the Canadian issue started, I mean, like the next day, there's your ally to the north. We've been friends for decades. It's amazing. Let's keep this good thing going. I mean, the commercial comes out like almost the next day.
Well, they point out that Canada is the largest supplier of natural gas and oil to the U.S.,
crude.
but they don't point out that it adds up to about 1.5% of what we consume. It's not a significant amount of what we consume. It's not like they're 20% of our fuel.
Right.
So very interesting. And like you say, that's all politics. It's all politics.
New York would have no power if not for Eastern Canada and the hydro projects that go on out there.
Which is
I
a
know.
sure sign that we're going to continue a relationship with Canada,
Absolutely.
whether they like it or not. There you go. Anything else, sir? Anything you want to say to your vast constituency?
Well, just Merry Christmas. Thanks for all the prayers. Stay in touch with us, and God bless you. May you have the very best Christmas with you and your family.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Michael
Ash?
Cloud, our congressman, thank you very much for joining
We
us. this morning.
appreciate you being here. We'll be here again in the morning,
Yeah, we
folks.
will. Why not?
Have a great day. Ash with a little Feliz Navidad to get you through the morning. Get your Tejano fix.
There you go.
God bless, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, folks.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad.